Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
If you wanted to look at actions that result in stories I talk about in this channel, and say, Steve, what's the smallest thing that has been talked about the most? The difference between the size of what's being talked about versus what it's become. It's the tire chalking case. The tire chalking case. And in Michigan, there's a town called Bay City, and it's near a bay, Saginaw Bay. And it is, in fact, the Bay City that reportedly the Bay City Rollers named themselves after, in a very convoluted story I won't go into now, although I really like the band. And in Bay City, there was an issue where the local parking enforcement people were going by and chalking tires to determine whether or not you had overstayed your parking space. And, quite often it's simply a little chalk mark, a single chalk mark on the tire. And a woman who'd gotten hit a few times for allegedly overstaying her parking limit filed a federal action saying that chalking of the tires was unconstitutional as it constituted a search and seizure prior to there being any probable cause, because they admittedly chalk tires of cars that are legally parked to see if they become illegally parked later. And so that's actually one of the elements that a lot of people miss here. And it's not just that the tire chalking question is how much of that is an action that upsets you. Is it almost de minimis? And I'll tell you right now, if you said, Steve, while you go into that store, a bunch of kids are going to come over and just start drawing on your tires with chalk, I'd say, I'd prefer they didn't. Don't want that to happen. But this is just a single chalk mark. But, as noted, it's being placed on the tire of the car while it's legally parked. Okay? And so if it's put on the tire while it's legally parked, that means that they are, in essence, doing this to people they know have not broken the law to see if they break it down the road. Now, the question, of course, is, are there other methods to do this? And I can tell you that there are some cities I know that have installed parking systems like Royal Oak, Michigan, where if you park in a spot, you go over to a little kiosk, you put money in somehow, and you tell it that you've parked in that spot. If you overstay the spot, there's a camera on a little thing there that photographs the back of your vehicle, and you will get a ticket. And I believe the system is smart enough to know that someone's parked in a spot and hasn't paid. So they've got an automated system, doesn't chalk anything. It just simply looks at the spot and goes, there's a vehicle there and no one's paid us for that. Boom, take the photograph. Or there's a vehicle there, they paid for an hour, and here we are 61 minutes later, and that car is still there. Boom, take the photograph. So it can be done. But the other thing here is that this issue has arisen in other circuits. So Michigan is in the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, along with a few other states. And in our circuit, the Court on Appeal said that this is unconstitutional to do this. It's the question of what the damages are. And the courts basically said the damages are what we call de minimis. They're not big. They're there. They're real. It's a whole number, but it ain't a big whole number. On the other hand, in I believe the 9th Circuit, they ruled and said, no, it's not a violation of the Constitution. It's too small of an intrusion to be considered a constitutional violation. So, interestingly enough, from WWJ News Radio 950 out of Detroit, the story in Michigan is coming to an end because the city is going to pay the woman in the lawsuit over marking the tires for alleged illegal parking. Bay City, Michigan has agreed to pay the woman $1,000 after marking her tires with chalk. A settlement was recently reached with the city's Downtown Development Authority, the DDA. Work this out. Police commonly use the practice to see if cars have stayed in the same spot for a certain amount of time, according to Newsweek. However, U.S. District Judge Thomas Ludington ruled that chalking tires without a warrant violates constitutional protections against unreasonable searches and seizures regarding another case in Saginaw, Michigan. So there have been a couple cases about this, but they went up on appeal. And so in this case in particular, Bay City, the plaintiff's attorneys will also receive $59,000. Now, some people say, Steve, let me get this straight. She gets $1,000. The attorneys get $59,000. If you look at the work that went into this case, she brought the case to them, and they did all the work to take it up on appeal, I believe, twice. It's a lot of work. And the way the statutes are written, if you have to go after the government on a constitutional issue and you frame it just right, the law says that if you win, your attorney fees will be paid if they're reasonable by the government. And so $59,000 in attorney fees for taking something up on appeal twice. Most attorneys are going to look at that and go, that's probably low. I'll bet you anything they could have billed more than that. But they'll get their money. She'll get her $1,000. And before you say she's getting ripped off, well, remember, she's the one who had a stack of parking tickets. In exchange for the parking tickets, which went away, she's getting $1,000. The attorney in the case says the whole point of this is to set clear lines. Police just can't kick down your door. The same parallel here is when the government starts messing with our cars. The attorney said that. The judge said the tire marking practice was unconstitutional after the attorney won key decisions at a federal appeals court whose opinions cover Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky, commonly referred to as the Sixth Circuit. In Bay City, the woman was hit with chalk marking-based tickets 6 times in 2016 and 2017. Yes, this dates back to 2016. Police used the chalk to determine how long people parked in downtown Bay City, where there are no parking meters. There are no parking meters. Others have also become frustrated with tire chalking. Earlier this year, a man on TikTok was dubbed a hero for washing chalk off his neighbor's cars. However, another court ruling regarding a San Diego case said that tire marking did not violate the Fourth Amendment. CBS has requested comment from Bay City officials. So, number one, understand we have differing opinions in the Sixth and the Ninth Circuits. Theoretically, somebody could try to take that up to the Supreme Court and see if they want to take a tire chalking case. Number two, wiping the chalk off the tire. I've heard of people doing that, and I've also heard of people getting in trouble for that because an argument can be made that you are interfering with a police investigation. Now, if it was your own tire on your own car, and you said, hey, I came out to my car, I'm getting in my car, I'm about to leave, there's a mark on the tire. So I wiped it off, got in my car, and I left. You probably wouldn't get in trouble for that. It's your car. But to walk by someone else's car and wipe the chalk off. Question then is, do you have the right to do that? And if you think you do, why wouldn't the cops have the right to do that? I'm merely pointing out how they would argue this when they went to court on the charge against you for interfering with a police officer. But I'd also like to point out that many people caught this, and this is Steve, there's no meters in downtown, how you're over parking. And it's one of those situations where there's signs saying 2-hour parking or 3-hour parking or something like that. And so they'll tell you that you can park for free, but only for this length of time. And what they're doing is they want spots for parking to turn over. They want there to be spots that people can come in, use for a couple hours and leave, and someone else can come in and use it. And we've all seen that before where there's a bunch of spots in front of a business and the people who work the business take those spots. And there are problems with that in any area where there's a shortage of parking spaces. So what they want the people who work nearby to do is park a little further away and let other people use those spots. That's the allegation. But if they want to enforce that, at least in Michigan, they've got to do it some way other than putting chalk marks on the tire of your car. So there you go. Both Neil and Mike sent it. It's from WWJ News Radio 950 out of Detroit, the all news AM station down there. And if you got questions or comments, fire them my way. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The journey is the reward.